Welcome to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman. Today we're going to be going over some budget magic cards to help fill your budget decks. Budget is different for everybody, but most of these cards are going to be under $1 or $2, which is what the majority of people think is budget according to some surveys that I've done, and there'll be no cards more than $5. The reason I go up to 5 is because sometimes a budget card can be a great finisher for a budget deck, and a $5 card can fit into $50 decks or $25 decks sometimes if it's necessary. So let's get started. First card is Sevinne's Reclamation. For 2 and a white, you can cast this sorcery and return target permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less to the battlefield from the graveyard. If this spell was cast from your graveyard, you may copy this spell and choose a new target for the copy. It has flashback for 4 and a white. This is just a great budget magic card. This is only 45 cents, and it can be a ramp if you got like a Evolving Wilds or Fabled Passage or one of the new Capenna lands that sacrifice himself. Brings that land right back to the graveyard. If your commander is 3 or less, it's great recursion for your commander to evade the command tax. And there's just a lot of great staples, especially in white. Removal for artifacts and enchantments. Many of that can be found on a creature or an artifact or an enchantment. So this has a lot of utility. And if you're not using it, you should give it a try. Next card is Cursed Mirror for 2 and a red. This artifact can tap for a red mana, but what really makes this card great is it has, as Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. So one of the problems with mana rocks in general is that they're not very good late game. So if most of your games are ending around turn 8 or 10, and you get this on turn 8 or 9, you're not going to get your mana back that you invested into it, and it's not going to alter the game by you playing it. So they're really good in the early game, and they're just okay in the middle of the game. But the Cursed Mirror does not have that problem because it can enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. It doesn't even have to be a creature you control. So you can copy your opponent's creatures, and with it having haste, that is a huge advantage. That gives the opponents very little time to react to it. And since it enters as a copy, as it enters the battlefield, artifact removal is not going to be very effective since it's entering as a creature, not an artifact creature, unless you copy an artifact creature. This card is really fun, and it was a little bit more expensive. It did have a nice price drop. It's only 79 cents now thanks to the Doctor Who reprint. It was a few dollars. So this can fit into many of your decks. So if you haven't ran it yet, give it a shot. Next up, we have a land. Now, many budget decks can be in more than one color, but people will say, oh, it's slow, you can't do that, you really should do monocolored, because the basic lands are just cheap and they always enter untapped. There are cheap dual lands. This Rockfall Vale is one of them. It is only 87 cents. TCG player. Rockfall Vale enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. So this is a check land, or technically, but it's mostly called a slow land because you just need 2 or more other lands. It doesn't have to be basic lands. It doesn't have to be a specific type of land. So it's real easy for it to enter untapped. It doesn't have any basic land types, so it's not very tutorable. But if you're running 2 or 3 color decks, even 4, I would definitely run this in your budget deck. It's also got great art. Also a reprint from Doctor Who. Another land is Horizon Canopy. Horizon Canopy has tap, pay 1 life, add a green or white mana. It also has pay 1, tap, sacrifice Horizon Canopy to draw a card. So the 1 life doesn't really add up a whole lot if you're playing Commander, which is what this channel is for. 40 life is where you start. Even if you tap this 5 or 8 times during the game, it adds up to some, but life is a resource, is what you're gonna hear if you're new, because it's true. And that ability to sack it to draw a card, it's very relevant. With only 1 out of 4 chance of winning, more than likely at some point you're going to start digging through your deck looking for an answer to stop somebody else from winning, and this could be the card that gets you 1 more deep for only 1 mana and tapping it. Definitely worth a consideration. It's also great in graveyard decks, and as we just mentioned, the Savine Reclamation, well, if you sacrifice this to put it in the graveyard, you can get it right back, so it has a lot of synergies. Last, we have Waterlogged Grove. It is just like Horizon Canopy, a Horizon land. It has tap, pay 1 life, add a blue or a green, and the other ability of pay 1, tap, sacrifice Waterlogged Grove, and draw a card. These cards used to be much more expensive, but this reprint really dropped these cards. Horizon Canopy used to be $15, and now it's only $2.20, and Waterlogged Grove is only 80 cents, so very affordable for our budget decks. You often hear cards being reprinted, but sometimes it's nice to know exactly how low the reprints will go, and you don't know if they're going to keep reprinting them, so if they don't, these prices are definitely going to go back up. But that's it for today. Thank you for joining in, and please hit like, share, and subscribe, because this is a new channel, and I appreciate you guys listening. Have a great day.